Week 2. Week 1 was dedicated to getting to know each other and becoming familiar with the basic overarching concepts that we'll be using to frame our critical analysis. Here in Week 2, we will be taking up those tools as we begin to explore how and why the specific texts fit within the frameworks or not. Let's get started.
This week we'll be starting to use the tools of postcolonial theory in order to guide our systematic critical analysis of the texts, starting with our Week 2 reading of the Epic of Gilgamesh. In Week 1, we opened up the discussion of what constitutes world literature and what are some of the reasons that we studied it. This week, we will be looking at the theoretical framework that sets up our toolkit for analysis, the concept of postcolonialism. Last week you read a brief handout from the introduction to Baldwin and Quinn's Postcolonial Anthology from 2007. On this slide are 3 brief quotes from that introduction that can serve as a starting point for our analyses of each text. The first quote: "A literary text, or any other text for that matter, seldom conveys only one message." This is the assumption that no text holds a single message. There are multiple layers. The second, the, quote, "intersection of culture and conquest," end quote, is that the most basic principle of postcolonial analysis is the study of the intersection of culture and conquest. We are looking at the spaces in which cultures come together through the processes of colonization, whether that be through direct conquest, imperialist actions, or even flows of globalization. The third key point, the idea of literature as mediation, is the idea that literature is a form of mediation, a way in which participants in these practices of colonization work through the complex experiences involved. Baldwin and Quinn further delineate that the lenses of postcolonial theory explore how cultural divisions and power relations are explored to better understand the complexities of colonial interactions. And in so doing, this critical theory challenges us to look at things that we may have long taken for granted, such as history, literature, language, art, and culture, in vastly different ways. So, what is culture? This image has been often used as a metaphor of what culture is. Like the iceberg, the largest portion is hidden from view. The peak of the iceberg, or what is observed, is merely those artifacts that we normally associate with culture, such as food, music, dance, clothing, language. These are the traditional culture markers that have been used by anthropologists and sociologists as belonging categories for decades. Nonetheless, most of culture is invisible. The beliefs, assumptions, values, and practices considered to be norms are deeply hidden and, like an iceberg, dangerously underestimated. Several key theorists involved in postcolonial theory are Homi Bhabha, Michel Foucault, Gayatri Spivak, and Edward Said. You'll be watching a video of Edward Said speaking on his concept of Orientalism this week to better understand the many ways that colonization is still impacting cultural interactions. This is the list of lenses that we will be using this term as tools to systematically analyze each text. Using these lenses, like all lenses, allows us to focus in on specific features without trying to look at all things within the text. It is highly recommended that you look up any terms which might be unfamiliar, so that you don't fall into a pitfall of misusing a lens that you're not adequately prepared to use. Even good tools used improperly can become ineffective. Just like you wouldn't use a hammer for every household repair, These tools are used with different levels of success depending on the goal and the context of use.